See, in the last class, I think in the first class, and in the last one also, I continued a little bit, that what we call as spirituality or spiritual longing is not your personal making. It is not your personal longing. I was just trying to say that it is evolutionary process trying to go ahead. That presently evolution has happened to this level, that it has come to this such a level that it can produce thought. It has come to a state of being capable of supporting an elaborate psychological system. It has evolved to that extent, to that subtlety. Now it has come to that extent, and now it is trying to go further, and thought process is resisting it. And what we call as spirituality is just make the thought process allow something more to happen. It's not about killing thought process and no mind and all those things. But because thought process has kind of assumed a supreme position in our life, we consider that to be the ultimate pinnacle of life. Nothing more is happening. For everything we are looking towards thought process only, and everything is ending there. All the energy is being consumed there. Nothing more is happening, and therefore it is stopped. Spirituality is only to open that dam and let the river flow. It is not you who will go somewhere. Okay, you have only stopped it. Where it will go, it is not for you to decide. It is not your personal decision, and you decided, you came to some idea, oh, I will do this. No, the whole existence it has happened till now. Something has happened. It will go forward if you allow it. Now we have only stopped it. Now, this is actually not something entirely new that I am telling. I asked her if you attended MSc because whatever you have learned in Panchakosha theory is that. I just told it without using any of the traditional words. See, one of the mistakes that people make when they come into spirituality, I will ask you, let me not tell it, I will ask you. See, you came to YIC or you came to MSc or whatever, and then they started teaching you Panchakoshas, they started teaching you Trigunas, they started teaching you many things like this, Avasthatraya and many things. And you started learning it. When you learned it, when you were learning it, were you learning it as something which is specifically applicable to you? Panchakoshas, for example, somebody taught you Panchakosha. So are you approaching the subject as something applicable specifically to you, the Panchakoshas?
No.
Others?
We thought this Anandamaya Kosha or each Kosha is for everybody. It's in everybody.
Human being.
But human being. Yes.
Okay. See, it is applicable to you. I am not denying it. Panchakoshas are applicable to you. Yes. But I am trying to point out that there is a tendency in people to approach it as something that specifically applies to me, that I am studying about myself. First of all, when we study this Panchakosha, or any of these other aspects, triguna or whatever it is. We are trying to study what we are not. All those things. I'm talking in the traditional, whatever these scriptures and whatever they're talking of, when we teach those things, for example, when we teach the 5 layers, you are studying that as something that is not you. That is the purpose, yes. And in that also, when you are studying something that is not me, we are not actually talking only about your personal system that you hold. If you start looking at it as I am my Anandamaya Kosha, my Pranamaya Kosha, my Manamaya Kosha, if you go into that, if you think that I am studying something special that is applicable to me, it is kind of going off track. You're actually studying the layers of existence and you happen to be a part of it, that's all. It is applicable to you, but it is not specially applicable to you. All right. We are talking of the whole creation. If you remember, I don't know if you remember, I'm talking to the MSc people especially. If you remember that Upanishads where the conversation between Bhrigu and Varuna takes place about the Panchakoshas, Bhrigu comes to Varuna and asks the question, what is Brahman or what is reality? What was Varuna's answer to that, response to that? Do you remember?
He asked him to explore himself, find out.
No. He gives him a pointer. He says a sentence. This is a sentence. Based on this, you do inquiry.
Yes.
From that which everything originates, and from there into which everything dissolves.
From which everything originates, which sustains everything, into which everything dissolves. That is reality. Find it out. So, is he talking about a human being? No. So, what the inquiry that Bhrigu undertook. So, when he said Anandamaya Kosha, he didn't say Kosha actually. He just said Anandamaya. So, this Anandamaya is the one from which everything originates, everything is sustained, and everything dissolves into. Is he talking about my special Anandamaya Kosha? He's talking about the material layer of the whole creation. And we happen to be a speck in that, and that is all. And therefore, it is applicable to us. Why I am making this distinction is there is a tendency in, see, human psychology is such that it always wants to find self-importance somehow. So it will come to spirituality and it will sit there and it will look at those 5 layers. Oh, I am so sophisticated. I am so complex. I am so great. That's what it will come to it finally. The scripture is not talking about my greatness or your greatness. It is just talking about the 5 layers of existence. And we happen to be a part of it, and that is all. Those panchakoshas are not our personal property that we developed and we are some great entities, only we have panchakosha. That is the whole, that attitude itself is absolutely unspiritual if you go by that. So now, if you correlate whatever I was talking about in the last 2 classes into this, I was just not using the words, these panchakosha words, but that's what I was trying to say. When creation started, see, I will make use of objective facts known to us. I'm not going to tell you my something which is told somewhere because somebody said it. I'm not asking you to simply go by something. As far as possible, I will give objective facts available today. More than that, we will have to inquire. We can't go into some speculations. Now we know that when creation began, it began with what we call as the physical layer, physics. It started with some set of laws. There were some set of laws governing the material world. And for billions and billions of years, it is the physical system that took time to stabilize itself. That is Anandamaya Kosha. That is the Anandamaya layer. The first manifestation that happened was physical layer, and it took millions and billions of years to stabilize. Once a basic physical system was stabilized with whatever laws, physics laws, whatever they are, and it's attained some kind of harmony, and system, solar systems and galaxies and whatever came into some kind of stable system. In some planets, things could go beyond those basic physical laws. Energy systems started evolving. See, when you look at a single-celled organism, it is not just going by the basic laws of physics. It is doing something else. It can go against gravity. It can move against gravity. I don't know what it does exactly, but if you can't correlate to a single-celled organism, at least think of a plant. It can go against gravity. It is not obeying simple laws of physics. So on that layer of physical manifestation, once the physical manifestation was stable enough, a subtler manifestation started. Systems of energy. Energy systems started manifesting. Now here, I want to bring your attention to something. Although energy systems are manifesting on the physical system, the physical system came first, and on that foundation, energy systems are evolving. Although it looks to you like energy system is being supported by the physical system, if you look at the in physics, we know which is fundamental. Matter is fundamental or energy is fundamental? Which is more fundamental? Which is the form of which?
Matter is
a form of energy, or energy is a form of matter?
Matter is a form of energy.
Yeah, matter is a form of energy. Energy is the superset. Matter is just one subset of energy. So in their latent form, although on the manifestation when they get expressed, energy system is happening on the foundation of material system. If you look at them in their latent form, in their unmanifest form, energy is the superset of matter. Are you following? The actual hierarchy is energy is first, energy is the superset, and matter is its subset. But manifesting energy will manifest its gross form first, and only then its subtle form will come. All right. So in manifestation, gross happens first, subtler comes later. But in its root form, subtler one is the container of the gross one. It is a superset. With energy and matter, you can understand, and therefore I am telling it. At least science, with science, we know. If the same thing could not have been told in 1910, before Einstein told us that matter is also a form of energy, we couldn't have told this also. So I'm just telling it based on what we know from science. They know now that energy is the fundamental one. So on the manifestation of basic physical layer, energy systems manifested. They could override the basic laws of physics. They could go against gravity. They could do little more things. Even now they are obeying certain laws. They are not completely doing out of system things, but the system, the gross physical system became a little more evolved, and now you can see that there is a little more freedom. The energy system has a little more sophisticated laws. The plant life or whatever it is, it obeys laws, but those laws are not very rudimentary like the basic physical laws. Now the laws have become a little sophisticated and those systems are subtler. You understand this? Now, physical layer manifested, energy layer manifested, energy systems manifested. Once energy system manifested and became sophisticated enough, once energy system evolved enough and became stable enough to hold the next layer, it produced the next layer. It manifested, not produced, it could manifest the next layer, which is, if I have to put it in modern terms, the layer of data. What we call in common terms as psychological framework. Psychological framework is a system of data. It's a data system. This is subtler than the energy system also. Now again, if you go by, now this is little counterintuitive. There is no final conclusion in science for this, but many scientists talk in this language today. See, you can understand that energy is the superset of matter. But if I tell you data is the superset of energy and matter, that is a little difficult to understand. But starting from 1930s and the recent times it has increased, there are many scientists who are talking in this language because they came to see it, and therefore I'm telling it, because otherwise we couldn't have told this also. Your usual notion, your general idea of data or information is that there is a, like your computer, there is a material system, there is a chip, and the chip contains data. Yes, that is our idea. Our idea is that matter is first, and matter holds data, matter contains data, matter imprints. Data means imprints of some kind. Somehow it is imprinted, stored, memory. So our idea of data is always that data is a supplementary thing to things, matter. But now I won't go into the physics part of it. It will become too complicated. But when they zoomed a lot, when they zoomed too much into the physical system, they came to know, or it started looking as if what we are calling as material world, reality, it started showing characteristics, the same characteristics of a movie projected on a screen. If you want a simpler example to understand this, I will tell you, but I don't know if you'll understand it. I can't guarantee it, but I will tell you a little bit. You know that your computer is a data system. Our whole thing, our computer, our programs and internet and everything is a system of data. Your computer screen has resolution, pixels. The moment you say data, it immediately means bits. Okay. It may be not exactly bits that you understand. It may become a complicated way of bits, but whatever it is, it will be some packets, pixels or bits or something like that. It can't be an absolutely smooth entity. Your computer screen has a certain resolution. You know that? Okay. Now on your computer screen, suppose there is an image. The image has its own resolution. The picture resolution may be very high or very low. It has a certain resolution, meaning it contains a certain number of pixels. So any picture, if you take any picture, And if you zoom sufficiently into it, you will see two things. One, you will start seeing square, which looked very smooth to you, starts looking like discrete patches. That is one. The other thing you will see is, in many places it will be, it depends on the picture quality also. The other thing you will see is, in many places it will start looking blur. You do a simple circle on paint, you save it as a PNG image, and then you zoom sufficiently, you will see that it is not just one patch of black. Next to black, there will be a gray patch, small little gray patch everywhere, especially in the bends. Are you following me? So when we zoom into something which looks like a thing, looks like a concrete thing, when we zoomed into it, it starts looking blurry. It will spread out like this. Now, if you talk of it strictly, it is like the circle is, if you talk of one particular segment of the circle, how you should put it in languages, if you ask where the circle is, you have to tell it is 80% in this black patch, 20% in this gray patch, and 10% in the lighter gray patch, because it has spread out. Yes. Now the circle is not in one fixed location. It is spreading itself out. You can do this experiment. You create a very high resolution image, and then you compress it too much. For example, a 2 MB simple circle is enough. A 2 MB image, very high resolution, compress it to 200 KB. The more you compress, the more you will see it will start spreading out. If you compress it more and more and more, finally it will be on the whole screen. Are you following? Then the circle itself won't be there. It will be just smeared across the page. You understand this? All this is we are able to understand now because of technological advancements only. If 30 years ago we couldn't have talked of all this. So now, why I'm telling this is, if something looks like a concrete thing to you, and when you zoom into it, you start seeing discrete patches, pixels, and you start seeing it becoming grayed and spreading out, it means it is not a fixed thing, right? You can't point out. You can't point out exactly where it is, because it is 20% in one place, 10% another place, 5% another place. Can you call such a thing as a thing? If I ask you, where are you? Will you tell I'm 10% here, 10% here, 10% here? That is counter. When we talk of matter, and we were always used to thinking everything in terms of things, that it is in one fixed place at a particular time. But when they zoomed into physical world itself, they saw that subatomic particles are like this. One thing is, they show discrete behavior. That's what quantum is. Quanta means packets. Energy starts behaving like packets. Okay. That is one. There are many aspects to quanta. So they saw that many things are behaving as discrete things. They are no more behaving smooth entities. That is one thing. The other thing they saw with subatomic particles is that, I won't explain this, but they saw something similar, that they say electron behaves like a probability wave. It is not one thing moving like a bullet. When you measure it, you will see it in one position. When you don't measure it, it behaves as if it is moving like this. One electron. So one electron is not a thing. We thought always that when we zoom into things, we will only find things, but we didn't find a thing. We started seeing that things are spreading out like this, exactly like how when you zoom in to a picture in your computer, things are spreading out. Which means what? Which means the physical entities are not actually physical entities. They are behaving like projections on a screen. They are behaving like data. The projection on your screen, whatever is in your computer screen, the image or whatever it is data, isn't it? It is stored data manifesting in some way. These are the characteristics of data: pixelation, bits and quantization, and this blurring out. These are characteristics of data. And they saw exactly the same thing when they zoomed into what we call as the material world. They saw it is blurring out like a picture. It's not exactly like that. I'm simplifying it too much for your understanding. So what does it imply? It means whatever you are seeing, whatever we think is material world is data. You are currently looking at it from a very far off distance. Far off means not far off from spatial distance, but in the image, in the computer image, when you zoom out a lot, it looks very smooth and like a concrete thing. So like that, we are looking at whatever we are capable of, our perceptivity presently. Our perceptivity is at a very highly zoomed out level. So everything looks like a concrete thing. So when they used technological advancements and zoomed into it, they saw it was no more a thing. It's behaving like images, videos, data. So it's not that your body contains data, your body is data. It is a superset. If you have to understand it in a simpler language, when you play a movie in the computer, within that movie, there are objects, there are so many things happening, there are whatever, there is a world. Within the movie, there is a world of matter and energy, but all that is finally data. Or you think of your own dreams. In your dream, you look at things, you touch them, you feel them, you do so many things. All that is only data. Yes? Data is the superset of energy and matter also. So in its unmanifest form, in its unmanifestation, it is a data layer that is a superset. Then it contains the energy layer contains the material layer. But when it manifests, it will do the opposite. The gross one will come first, stabilize itself. Energy will, the subtler one is energy will come out, stabilize itself. And then the data layer manifests and stabilize itself. System of data will come. Now, when systems of data comes, suddenly there is, see, again, it is happening within certain laws, certain framework. But compared to physical laws and the laws of plant life and the basic other life forms, data system looks tremendously, you feel tremendously empowered, because the data layer is so subtle, so sophisticated compared to the previous layers. It gives you so much control. Still, it is happening within limits. It has its own laws, but still the amount of freedom that comes with the data layer makes you think that this must be the ultimate. The psychological system manifested, and that is what we call as thought process. So these three you understand: Anandamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha. The next one I can't explain. I can only make you inquisitive, because this is not something that can be explained unless, see, like just with this data examples that I was talking of, I was giving signs, examples, and whatever. So collectively, we have not yet come to that point where we can talk of Vijnanamaya Kosha, because there is nothing that you can relate to. So I will only make you challenge yourself, because you are presently in a status quo, thinking thought is the ultimate. I will just make you challenge it. I will not tell you what more is there. Now, when you look at the physical systems, solar system or whatever simple systems that are there, you see that there are certain, it's a system and there are certain laws governing those systems. You see that they're running in a systematic way. They're not happening absolutely erratically. So when you look at a system in place, immediately you will see that there is some intelligence behind it. It's not erratically functioning. There are fixed laws according to which everything is behaving. Physical layer, I'm talking physical layer. So when you look at a systematic thing like that, you will say, oh, there must be some intelligence behind it. Yes? Now I can say the same thing in an opposite way. I can challenge that with an opposite thing. If you look at something happening mechanically, repeating like it in the same pattern over and over again, does it look intelligence to you? It's running in the same way again and again, same pattern is happening. Does it look intelligence to you? See, I asked the same question in two different ways.
There is some intelligence running it. So
That I asked first. Yes. There is a system and we see laws, fixed laws are there, and it is not happening absolutely erratically. So when you look at that aspect, it looks like there must be some intelligence behind it. If you look at it in the opposite way, it really doesn't look like intelligence. It looks dumb. Same thing is happening again and again. I will tell why I am telling this. Now, if you look at the next layer, energy layer, now you can compare to the physical layer, you can say, oh, this looks a little more intelligent. It is doing little more things. It has a little more freedom. Its system is a little more subtle and sophisticated. So there must be intelligence behind this one also. At the same time, again, the fundamental fact will remain that although it is a systematic thing happening, if you ask the opposite question, it is functioning within certain walls, certain limits. It may be sophisticated, it may have much more freedom than the basic physical layer, but still it is happening within certain limits. So it is going on with that, within that particular limits. So again, it will look to you, if you ask the question like that this also is really not intelligent. Now the same thing you apply to the data system, psychological system. This has become much more subtle and sophisticated. It looks tremendously empowered. So this almost looks like this is intelligent. This is intelligent. It looks like intelligent. But if you look carefully into the psychological system also, it also is running in fixed patterns. Now this I can't convince you. You will have to see it, whether it is so or not. It may be, see, the permutation combinations may be millions, billions. But if you look keenly into it, it is happening in fixed patterns. It is not doing something absolutely new. It can only recycle what it has already. And because permutation combinations can happen in tremendous numbers, if you remember, permutation combination leads to huge numbers. And because it leads to huge numbers, every new combination looks like something totally new. But actually it is not totally new. It is just a rearrangement of what is already known. See, if I have to give a simple example, when people come to spirituality, when they come to study a course in yoga, especially in India, I'm talking about, and when they get to hear many of the scriptural words, Panchabhuta, Panchatattva, Triguna, blah, 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 when they get these 24 words, 24 words, it makes them feel so empowered. They will start connecting. Oh, this is that is this is that. You will see that enthusiasm, not in everybody, but those who are a little intellectual, they feel as if something totally new is happening. Actually, nothing new is happening. Whatever it is already in their experience, just new words are being told. And some words are being told absolutely conceptually. And they're just grabbing these words, they're connecting from Yoga Sutra to this Upanishad, from that to Bhagavad Gita, and they feel thrilled by that, just by connecting the words, by playing that crossword puzzle, Sudoku. They'll play a Sudoku. They'll play a Sudoku with all the words, and matching those words gives them some thrill. The intellect feels empowered because of jumbling and playing with the words. So although this is giving the impression of intelligence, although this is, you can say, is much, much more liberated compared to the previous systems, still it is functioning within limits. If you put simply, you can say psychological systems patterns are, that's what they do basically in psychology. They study the patterns of human mind, and they try to manipulate it in some way, and that's what they do. So these three layers, although we sense that there is some intelligence there, it still doesn't look like intelligence in its entirety. Yes. The next kosha, traditionally what they say as Vijnanamaya kosha, is that intelligence. Now, I can't convince you how this is the superset of data, energy, and matter. This can't be convinced. I can only point out this much, that you can see intelligence behind all these three layers, but still it doesn't look complete. It looks artificial intelligence. See, we think that we are trying to create artificial intelligence. Most human beings in our present state are artificial intelligence. I'm not telling all of us all the time are artificial intelligence. It depends on human beings. Some people have touched Vijnanamaya kosha. Some people, you can say most human beings would have touched it at some point or the other. Some would have really let the evolution happen and reach Vijnanamaya kosha. They are functioning from Vijnanamaya kosha. So human beings have some intuitive, some kind of hunch that there is something more than thought. So there is an intelligence which is not driven by patterns, which is not driven by memory, which is not driven by just recycling and permutation combination, but something, a spark of something absolutely new. I can't explain this, but human beings sense that. So what I was pointing out in my previous talks is that most human beings have come to, not most human beings, all human beings have come to the level of Manomaya kosha. The data system has manifested, and most human beings are not letting the next one happen, because the data system is acting like an artificial intelligence which is mimicking actual intelligence, and it is saying, I am intelligent. And when that conclusion comes, you are blocking further evolution from happening. You will naturally block it. You don't have to block it by doing something special. The moment you look towards thought process as the ultimate, nothing more will happen. Now I know that traditionally they correlate Vijnanamaya Kosha to intellect. I know that traditionally correlated to intellect. But what I am pointing out now is that intellect is not really manifest in all human beings. What is manifest in human beings, whatever you say as thought process and logic, is still in Manomaya Kosha only. The actual intellect, which is that spark of intelligence, is rarely accessed or touched by human beings. And that is when we use these words like creativity and all those things. Actually speaking, it is not creativity. They are not creating something. They are, whatever is unmanifest, they are manifesting. It will manifest through them. So when Vijnanamaya Kosha manifests these, what you call as new things, pioneers will come and they will do absolutely new things which others can't even see. They couldn't have thought it by themselves. So what I was talking of in the previous class is actually just a elaborate version of Panchakosha model. So you should not be looking at spiritual process, spiritual longing, everything as something that specially pertains to you. No, it happens to pertains to you because it belongs to the whole creation. And I was referring to creation as life process. I am saying something is evolving from material to energy to data to intelligence. So I'm calling that something as life process. You have to give some name to it. So something is evolving, life process itself is evolving. It is not you trying to do something. Collectively, it has been doing something. And when it could produce data systems, what it means is animals and human beings evolved. Not one particular person evolved. The whole layer was evolving. So animals, the mind is there to some extent. It evolved further. The data system stabilized itself to some extent in human beings. It's a collective process that is happening. But once it has come to mind, it can go both ways. You can go even a regression. It is not just stopping further process. You can even go backwards. Thought can see, although in the layers of subtlety, we say thought is data layer, and data is much more subtle compared to energy and matter. Although it is very subtle, if it starts acting like the ultimate, thought will start becoming very gross. When we become more entangled in the mind, we will become more and more gross. Our thought process, our emotions will become more and more constipated and gross. Thought itself is a subtle entity, but it can become grosser than the physical itself. And that is why you see when we become, by the time we become 35, 40, most human beings are dragging their feet because their thought structure has become so heavy. In their experience, the thought structure has become their ultimate, and therefore they're carrying it. They're looking towards, for everything they're looking towards thought. And thought is accumulating, conclusions, knots and knots, blocks of thought. And that is what makes life that. It can become grosser than the physical. So if you see how we were, now this is, don't take this example literally. When we were children, the thought process had not yet fully evolved. So that burden was not there. The thought was not intervening. So life was happening much more lightly. Now I'm telling, don't take that example seriously, because in children it is happening because of an incapability. Because the mind is not even evolved fully. What we are looking for is not an incapability. Mind should be there, but it should not be bothering us. It shouldn't be stopping further process.
The one thing that makes sense, or I'm trying to understand, is when we speak about the manifestation from the physical layer moving on to the energy layer, where we are calling it as the superset, as the energy layer, and then the data layer. What is governing the data layer? Is that interpretation right to be called as the intelligence or the Vijnanamaya Kosha? Is what is the
Intelligence is governing all layers. It's a superset. I'm not only talking of governing. Governing you can understand. That's what I was trying to point out. That you can see some intelligence in physical and some in energy layer, some in data layer. So you see intelligence happening there, but it doesn't feel like intelligence yet. So you can only sense that there must be some intelligence, real intelligence behind this. But what I can't convince you of is that intelligence is the superset of all these three, that it contains these three, not just governs these three, but it is those three. You understand? Matter is energy, right? Data and energy is, matter and energy is data. That you understand, superset. But these three are intelligence, that they are made of intelligence. That you can't understand. We can understand only till data, because we are presently at thought process level. Thought process at the most can only understand up to itself. If I say energy is the stuff of the whole universe, that you accept, that's easy to understand. If I say it's not energy, now many scientists are coming to say, they have said it actually, they have said that the stuff of creation universe is not energy, it is information, it is data, bits. So they said that. That also, if you think a bit, you will understand, okay, it could be. Beyond that, you can't understand. If you say the whole creation is intelligence, not intelligence governing it, it is intelligence, that you can't understand using thought process. Nor can it be conveyed using words. Now, I don't mean to say that that fourth layer is the ultimate, but even if we touch that, I think it is enough. Even if that is touched, it's enough for now.
Is that what happened to people like Ramanujam, Purandaradasa, who came up with so many compositions?
Yeah, you can.
It's just, it's not that they sat and they thought about it and they got it, right? They were in a particular state wherein it just kept flowing.
Yes. It happens to everybody to different extents. In some you can see that manifesting much more vividly. But the examples you gave would be pertain to, again, certain, only certain limited aspects of life, music, mathematics. It is not still applying to the entirety of it. I'm not saying I'm not trying to give a comment on them. I'm just saying, when somebody becomes a music genius, they have touched the Vijnanamaya Kosha in some way, but it is still one dimension, right? Music is just one aspect of it. He could have become a great mathematician. Doesn't mean that it took him closer to self-awareness. We can't say that, surely. Not necessarily. So when I say it happened in its entirety or fundamentally, what I mean is, it will take you closer to self-awareness, Vijnanamaya Kosha. Otherwise, it will just make you a genius in one field. That's all. That is Vijnanamaya Kosha. I'm not negating. Why those people, even now, whoever we consider as genius in any field, what we call as Vibhuti, that's all coming from Vijnanamaya Kosha. It's not coming from Manomaya Kosha. When I was doing MSc, when I think Dr. Nagaratna Devi, she took classes for us, and when she took, there was a slide where it said Vijnanamaya Kosha, they had correlated to people like Rama and Krishna. They had said, they were telling that Vijnanamaya Kosha is manifest only in these people, and it is not just intellect in our normal sense of the term. I couldn't grasp it at that time, and there we don't go into such details because we are just using it for yoga therapy. For us, there it is enough to understand it as intellect.